I've been trying to put together a pyramid based on our understanding of what a proper diet should look like. Unfortunately, I might be stepping on a few toes here. It's very complicated. Even the authorities have completely differing opinions about what makes up a good, solid dietary plan. What I'd like to present to you today is our understanding of a long-term diet that actually works, that's going to promote health and well-being. As we look at diet, we have to start by looking at goals. What are the goals? What do we want to accomplish with our diet? Why would we want to even consider changing the diet? I believe that we should consider changing our diets in order to accomplish the dreams that we have for our retirement, to be active, to be alert, no joint replacements, no hearing aids, no macular degeneration, no cataracts, no senility, just age gracefully. And a lot of that, a huge part of that comes from dietary choices that we make every single day. Another topic that we'll be addressing, and a lot of these topics we'll address in specific as we go along, is caloric restriction. A lot of people want to lose weight. I'm going to restrict my calories, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to eat grapefruit for 6 months and lose some pounds. The problem is when you have a caloric restriction, the body goes into survival mode, and when you leave the caloric restriction regimen, you actually put on as much weight and a lot of times even more. So we believe that caloric restriction doesn't work. Let's find a good long-term dietary regimen that's going to work for you, and we'll get into that later, and let's just stick to it for years and just watch your body change. What's the rush? And that long-term, the long-term viability, it's got to be something that you can stick to for a long time. One of the interesting things about looking at the goals of a diet is that we want to decrease the amount of stress that we have in our lives. And you go, well, how could diet affect my stress? And in fact, it affects your stress in a lot of different ways. Stress can manifest itself as physical stress, financial stress, mental stress. In the dietary realm, it's metabolic stress. So when your blood sugar is high all the time, that stresses every single cell in the body. When your insulin levels are off, when your fat content is off, when there's too much overgrowth of yeast in the intestine and they're excreting waste products, all of those waste products can overload the liver, and then we see toxic symptoms showing up because of this constant bombarding of metabolic stress because of diet. And it's absolutely huge, and it needs to be considered. Once we've looked at the goals, as we get into the standard food pyramid, we look at what are we actually going to be eating. I believe that the base of the triangle should be vegetables. I think you should have vegetables morning, noon, and night. I'm not saying sit down with a plate of broccoli for breakfast, but vegetables are the key to health and well-being. In addition to the vegetables, we want to have some carbohydrate. Every single civilization has either rice or pasta or breads or some kind of a carbohydrate, potatoes. So I think we should have some kind of a carb, and we should look at those carbs in each individual person's case. And I believe the carbs that you eat should be in line with your ancestral origins. If you tend to be Eastern Asian, you might do well with rice. If you tend to be Italian, you might do well with pasta. If you tend to be Irish, you might do well with potatoes, or potatoes and beer. But what carb is going to work for you? I think fresh fruit is important. It needs to be clean, but having fresh fruit on a daily basis gives us the enzymes and the antioxidants and the little trace minerals that we need to help us be healthy. I believe this is my pyramid, right? This is my food pyramid. I believe that a little animal product is good for you. I believe that having a strictly vegetarian, vegan diet long-term can be very, very straining on the body. It can be done, but it can be very straining on the body. So I believe that it's nice to have a small piece of meat and a small piece of meat, a small piece of fish, small piece of chicken at dinner with 2 vegetables and no carbs at night. So I believe that good, clean animal products on a regular basis are important to maintain health and adequate protein intake for good muscle mass. And then I think nuts and seeds are a good snack and are a good filler. So that's my pyramid. Let's build the pyramid with vegetables at the bottom, not Pop-Tarts. And then once we look at that pyramid, what else? What else are we going to do to maintain a good, healthy diet? Should we have fresh all the time, canned, frozen? A lot of this depends on lifestyle. As I watch my Dr. Marte's parents age, they walk down to the market every single day and buy fresh produce for lunch and dinner. Next day they walk down to the market and buy fresh produce for lunch and dinner. They have bottled olive oil. They don't make their own olive oil, but it's pretty fresh. That is probably not reasonable in most people's lifestyle. I think canned foods should be kept to a minimum. They tend to have preservatives and salt and different additives. I like frozen spinach, different frozen vegetables. I think can be good. Dr. Marte and I get frozen liver at the local meat market, and then if we want liver, we just pull that out and thaw it out. So I think frozen can be very convenient and very, very clean. When we look at organic, non-organic, non-GMO, and does everybody know what GMO means? GMO is genetically modified food, genetically modified organisms. They're taking, these geneticists are taking wheat, they're taking corn, and they're turning it into a rock that looks like a grain of wheat or a kernel of corn. And it just isn't the same thing. I've heard wheat called Frankenwheat. It's just nasty, and we're seeing more and more and more celiac disease, not because people are allergic to the wheat, but because the wheat is just getting so nasty. Speaking of that, by the way, I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, and there was an article in the Wall Street Journal stating that the rise in serious allergy cases in youngsters has risen over 500% just in the last 7-8 years. In other words, people are eating peanuts or strawberries or just maybe some shrimp and dying. And then all this fuss about EpiPens and what are you going to do if you have this anaphylactic shock. I don't believe that the significant shocking rise in these allergic responses is due to the foods, but it's more has to do with degradation of the human bowel and how well we're able to keep ourselves, and we just can't fight any kind of little adverse problem, and we get these allergic reactions. So it might be something interesting for you that want to look up a little bit. In addition to the vegetables, in addition to the meat, in addition to the carbohydrates, we need to look at water intake. And in water intake, I've heard experts talk about you need to put a little lemon in your water, you need to put a little fruit juice in your water, you need to drink plain water, you need to put salt in your water, you need to have water mixed so that it makes an electrolyte mixture. I believe a good solid water intake is important for your health, and I would prefer to see you drinking plain water. What I like to stay away from is nibbling all day long. Having breakfast, going to work, and having a cup of coffee on your desk and just sippy on that coffee all day long. Or having a bottle of water with a little fruit juice and sippy all day long. I don't think that's the way God intended our bodies to work. I like to eat a meal and let your digestion rest. Eat a meal, let your digestion rest. And we do this by drinking good, purified, clear water. I don't recommend tap water. I recommend that the water be filtered to take out the chlorine from the city water supply. Once we understand what to eat, once we understand what to drink, we need to look at portions. We need to look at how much we eat, how quickly we eat, how we eat. Do we eat standing up? Do we eat on the run? Do all the family members eat at separate times? I believe that it's important to sit down, eat slowly as a family, and relax as you eat so that your body can do with the food, get the maximum benefit out of it. So we want to understand where the high calorie foods are, where we can actually cheat and wind up with too much calories. We want to understand portions. In our clinic, we actually do body composition analysis, where we look at the basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories that a body burns at rest. If you're just lying in bed doing nothing, that's how many calories you would burn. Then there's another number called the DEE, the daily energy expenditure. Now if you actually get out of bed and walk to the car and brush your teeth and go to the store and you're moving around, with that movement, what's your daily energy expenditure? And we need to kind of match the calories coming in with our daily energy expenditure. And later on we'll get into some exercise ideas and some aerobic ideas and how to increase the number of calories that we're burning every day. Gives us a little bit more flexibility in our diet. So if you need a little more flexibility in your diet, we need to look at actually increasing that DEE, the daily energy expenditure. And another thing we look at on the body composition analysis is body fat. There are some kind of standard numbers. I believe males should be 15 to 18% body fat. Females should be 17 to 21, 17 to 22. But a lot of body fat, the body stores toxins in fat. And the more body fat you have, the more toxic exposure you're subjecting yourself to all the time. The final thing that we look at when we look at my food pyramid is struggling to put this food pyramid into our daily routines. And I hear all the time, Dr. Mark, I work second shift, I get home late, and I sit down and watch late night TV, and I pound whatever. But I'm munching from 2 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I go to bed, and this is not good food. We can call it comfort food. I hear about students going away to college and I don't know how to cook. Well, let's learn how to cook. I hear about over-the-road truck drivers struggling. How are we going to handle this? And each individual person has individual challenges that need to be addressed. And my father was an optimist. I'm an optimist. I believe that challenges are meant to be overcome, and let's make it fun. I hope this helped, and I'll be seeing you soon. Thanks.